This is Miloš Jakeš. He's been the leader of the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia ever since the dramatic ousting of former leader Gustav Hušák, who had served as the party's leader since the failed Prague Spring of 1968. However, Jakeš's Czechoslovakia is going to disappear very soon. On the eve of International Students' Day, the 1939 storming of Czech universities by the Nazis, Slovak high school and university students organized a peaceful demonstration in the center of Bratislava. The Communist Party of Slovakia had expected trouble, and the mere fact that there were demonstration was organized was viewed as a problem by the party. Armed forces were put on alert before the demonstration. The next day, the 17th of November, 1989, students were celebrating International Students' Day. Most demonstrators were opposed to communism, but were too afraid to speak up. This protest gave students the perfect place to express their political beliefs. About 15,000 people joined the protest to march across the country, shouting anti-communist slogans. At about 7:30 in the afternoon, the demonstrators were stopped by a cordon of riot police at Narodny Street. They blocked all escape routes and attacked the students. The atmosphere of fear and hopelessness gave birth to a hoax about a dead student named Martin Schmidt. The story was made up by Drahomira Drashka as she awaited treatment after she was hurt during the riot. The incident mobilized the people and triggered the revolution. That same evening, students and theater actors agreed to go on strike. About 500 Slovak artists, scientists, and leaders met at the Art Forum in Bratislava at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They denounced the attack against the students in Prague on the 17th and formed Public Against Violence, which would become the leading force behind the opposition movement in Slovakia. They called for the dismissal of top officials responsible for the violence and an independent investigation of their incidents and the release of all public prisoners. On the 20th of November, students and theaters went on permanent strike. Police stopped the demonstration from continuing towards Prague Castle, which would have entered the striking theaters. The Civic Forum added a demand: the abolition of the ruling position of the Communist Party from the Constitution. Non-communist newspapers published information that contradicted the communist interpretation. Strikes and protests continued throughout the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and onward, despite the top communist leaders, such as Prime Minister Ladislav Anames and Secretary General Miloš Jakeš, issuing warning letters to the students and vowing to protect socialism. However, surprisingly, on the 24th of November, the entire Czechoslovak Presidium, including Adames and Jakeš, resigned and was replaced with the more moderate Karel Urbanek. A successful 2-hour general strike led by the civic movements strengthened what were at first a set of moderate demands into cries for a new government. The strike took place throughout the country between 12 and 2, supported by a reported 75% of the population. The Ministry of Culture released anti-communist literature for public checkouts in libraries, effectively ending decades of censorship. Civic Forum demonstrated its capacity to disrupt the political order and thereby establish itself as the legitimate voice of the nation in negotiations with the state. The civic movement mobilized support for the general strike. And finally, after all of that, on the 28th of November 1989, the Federal Assembly deleted the line in the Constitution assuring communist rule in Czechoslovakia, and on the 10th of December, one of the leading figures in the revolution, Václav Havel, swore in the first non-communist government in the country in 41 years. While Czechoslovakia wasn't the first Eastern Bloc nation to remove communism, as the Hungarians had already rid themselves of it, the Velvet Revolution inspired the rise of the Polish Solidarity movement, as well as the fall of communism in East Germany, Bulgaria, Albania, and of course the Soviet Union, while the Romanian Revolution was directly inspired by it, having taken place less than a month later, with longtime dictator Nicolae Ceausescu being executed 31 days after the resignation of Miloš Jakeš.